Alright, we're live. Hello. It's been a while, and I feel like I say that every stream nowadays I play, or that I turn on, but, hello. And let me turn down this. Let's see, let's turn down the volume. A smidge. Hello. Okay, that's a little too low. Hello, hello. That seems okay. We got 15 there. Okay, that looks like it'd be good. Alright, how's it going? Boy, oh boy. There's a lot of things happening, right? It's been a while as well, since I've done a proper political stream. Let me pull up some things, I guess, to look over. Okay. Seeing I guess I have to go to a clip for this.
Car.
Well, I'm pulling up a bunch of stuff to look at. Let's see. Anyway, hopefully you guys are doing well out there. All the fun shit going on. I've been really busy with like a bunch of like work stuff, so that and like the house and I guess just things personally. There's a lot of things going on, so I've been pretty preoccupied with that. Got a lot of links to pull up. So, okay. Let me take a swig real quick. Okay. So, a lot's happened recently, and quite frankly, a lot's happened the past month. Um, politically. So, I guess to summarize my thoughts about things in general, so Biden stepped down, right? And he stepped down last Saturday, right? Or last Sunday, and he was not doing well. So actually, you know what? It might be better if we just pull this video up. Um, let's check this out.
New polling from the Wall Street Journal shows that Vice President Kamala Harris is closing in on former President Donald Trump.
And it is my intention to go out and earn this nomination.
Oh, you know what else? Oh my God, yeah. And he also so we see that the polls were starting to shift in the Democrats' favor, and this might just be a honeymoon phase, so we'll keep that in mind. But it's interesting because like he um he is non-committal about debating Harris now, after Biden had stepped down, and she's hitting him back hard by saying what happened anytime, any place. Oh my God, this is like the worst fucking thing for conservatives because they have to reconcile with adjusting their entire plan from a campaign's perspective, dealing with a new candidate, new age, new gender. Everything is completely different now. The landscape has shifted completely, and um, they basically have had nothing at this point that they've levied against Harris that is looking great, and they're also like getting tanked hard by JD Vance as well, who we'll get into later. But yeah, I mean, like he's fucking scared, Donald Trump, with debating Kamala Harris.
President Donald.
And these polls are looking, I mean, they're polls, so keep in mind that we're taking them with a grain of salt, but it's still interesting.
Trump.
And it is my intention.
Oh shit. I backed out of that. Sorry about that. But yeah, dude, it's fucking wild, like, how much the landscape has shifted the past couple days. It's just, it's, or even, I mean, the past week, it's been wild.
Out and earn this nomination and to win.
She's essentially erased Donald Trump's lead that he had over Biden when he was at the top of the ticket. It wasn't just that voters out there had concerns about the Democratic Party's policies or how Joe Biden had governed over the past couple of years. In fact, it was very specific concerns about him and his perceived fitness for office based on his age. With Kamala Harris on the ticket,
Well, it wasn't just his age, it was also his health concerns because he had, he misspeaks and, like, it just seems like there's a lot to go after him in terms of his fitness to serve as president based on his health. It wasn't just his age. His age played a role in that, but just clarify.
You can see that there are at least some voters out there who within a very short amount of time are now willing to consider voting for the Democratic Party and putting a Democrat in the White House when just a week ago they were not.
Here are the major takeaways from the poll. The majority of people say they are more motivated to vote with Harris stepping in as a likely nominee.
But we've
More motivated to vote does not make a difference, less motivated. It looks like it's 50-50.
seen in the public ever since Kamala Harris became the nominee, with how many big donors have pledged to her super PAC, with how many grassroots donors have pledged to her campaign.
You know how much money Kamala Harris raised in her first day of
Oh my God, yeah, that's true. She raised so much fucking money. In the first 24 hours, she raised like, I don't even know. I guess maybe I'll
Get
go
this,
over
she
it.
raised $81 million. That is the
Yep, first 24 hours, she raised $81 million through grassroots donations. Yeah.
largest amount ever raised in a single day.
It really altogether suggests that Democrats are just much more enthusiastic and energized to vote in a way that they weren't when Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket.
And that's especially important among Black, Latino, and young voters, part of the coalition that helped put President Joe Biden in the White House, whose support has been slipping in recent years.
It wasn't
I'm not gonna lie, I was one of the people who was like on board with having Biden stay as the nominee. And you know, as time progressed, my opinion started to evolve. But like, I never knew the appetite for a new candidate was like this, like, you know, like to this level. You know, it's pretty remarkable.
so much that Donald Trump was necessarily gaining support, but rather Joe Biden's support was slipping to a degree that suggested there might be some part of his base that might not come out on election day. Now what we're seeing is that Kamala Harris being at the top of the ticket seems to really have awakened those coalitions that put them in the White House in the first place, and you're not seeing quite as much slippage in support compared to 2020.
Should Harris win the nomination as expected, she would also be the first female nominee of color.
One of the things we heard a lot about just in our reporting was concern among some Democrats, even some Democratic women of color, of whether America was ready for a Black woman to lead the country. So in our poll, we asked people, does her being a Black woman of South Asian descent matter to whether or not they would support her?
The majority of people said that it wouldn't affect their decision to support her, but were less likely to say the same about most Americans.
It's essentially saying, I don't really care, but I'm not sure if other people will care.
Interesting.
While there are some positive signs for Democrats in this poll, especially considering where they were when President Biden was at the top of the ticket, there are some positive signs for President Trump as well. And the poll suggests that this race is going to be incredibly close through Election Day.
About 51% of voters said that they approve of Trump's past performance as president.
That's the highest we've seen in our poll so far.
Yeah, so my guess there would be this, like, absence makes the heart grow fonder effect, which is absolutely a true phenomenon when it comes to politicians and especially former presidents, because the longer, you know, time goes on, typically, the more, and like they stay out of the spotlight, typically they'll be more like favorable, right? Now, I think with Trump is a little unique because he hasn't really been out of the limelight. However, his like presidency and like his administration, I think people look back on probably with a little more rose-tinted glasses, just because it was something that happened in the past and we're now here today, and like, I don't know, maybe they're willing to give it a little more charitability. But I think the absence makes a heart grow fonder. That kind of effect is playing into this too in a little bit.
So far this election cycle.
But only about 41% approve of Harris's performance as vice president.
The fact that so many Americans view Kamala Harris's job as vice president negatively does help explain why the Trump campaign and President Trump himself have really tried to tie Kamala Harris, being Joe Biden's running mate, to his record and his policies on immigration and his stewardship of the economy.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be like the line of attack that Republicans need to rely on if they want to, like, you know, really take a big shot at Kamala. Just, you need to tie her to Biden's record. You need to tie her to, like, you know, the fact that she's very unpopular, nobody ever heard of her, and really, she didn't poll well in the primaries, and like all this other shit. Like, just speaking to her, like, her role as a vice president, because that's the thing that people don't look as favorably towards when it comes to Kamala. So if they can tie those two things together, her running for president with her role as a vice president under Joe Biden, I think that would be the line of attack they should go.
Two areas that are really key for voters and areas where they think Donald Trump would be better if he were elected president.
A vote for Kamala is a vote for 4 more years of dishonesty, incompetence, weakness, and failure.
So I think you'll continue to see through Election Day, Trump and his campaign really try to convince voters that Despite Kamala Harris being younger than Joe Biden, in their view, she owns his record just as much as he would.
Yeah, that's probably the strategy they should go with too. But they can't obviously attack her on her age. Also, it's gonna be interesting because like if they do that and they tie her to his record, Joe Biden's record, it sort of contradicts like their line of attack when it comes to her like very left leaning, record as a politician prior to 2020. She did have a very progressive platform, or very progressive in terms of how she voted and all that stuff. So it's gonna be interesting how they toe that line between like tying together her positions and her philosophy with Joe Biden versus like prior to that, because she was far more progressive than Joe Biden was prior to 2020. So that's gonna be interesting. But nevertheless, I think that like she is I mean, man, Democrats are it's like a 180 now, because like before they were pretty fucked with Joe Biden and him being stubborn, but now that he's kind of loosened the reins and he stepped down, it's like a whole new race now. But what I've seen on Twitter, some lines of attack that I don't think are good. Man, there's some of them. There's some of them that are out there. Let me pull up one more because I know for a fact I this. Oh wait. Okay. Whoops. Where is this at? I saw this the other day. Yep, there it is. Okay. So some lines of attack that are really bad, I think, are attacking her identity, which, oh man, conservatives can't help themselves because like they're just raving sexist, misogynist, and transphobes. They literally like cannot help themselves but be like bigoted and attack her identity. So some lines of attack I've noticed include her having pronouns, even though firstly, funny, they say it's breaking news even though it's just pronouns in her bio, and they claim liberals are snowflakes. But besides that, she's had these in her profile since 2020. So it's not that she just added them. That's an actual lie. Also, who gives a fuck? I don't care. And if I'm like a centrist voter, it's hard for me to put myself in those person's shoes. But if I try, I feel like I wouldn't really give a shit about this. She put pronouns in her bio, so what? Now I guess like this is maybe like trying to be like, hey guys, I actually, you know what? I don't even know what this could even mean. I'm not even like exaggerating. I don't even know what the fuck this is. Like why anybody would take issue with this. The people who, yeah, it's crazy. And in a similar vein, you see it here too. Under Kamala Harris, both of these, she calls them men, would have full access to your daughter's locker room. It's a ridiculous line of attack just because these people are serving our nation. And like one of them is in a military uniform, so I guess they're anti-military now. Crazy, huh? And if you want to like clap back here, like you could. It's funny too. They're trying to go after the female vote, or the woman vote here. It's wild. It's fucking wild. I mean, they're appealing directly to TERFs and with this line here, and I guess the whole tweet as a whole. But by this logic, with protecting it, first off, trans women in bathrooms don't pose a significant risk to anybody. But outside of that, like if you wanted to flip this on its head, they would be totally fine with like this dude being in the girls' locker room. Fuck Angel. They would be okay with this is the reality they want, going by their logic of biological sex. So that's a good counterpoint you could make here. Right here, obviously Matt Walsh is trying to appeal to the woman vote, I guess, by saying that one party rejects biological existence. I don't even... Okay. You would be insane to vote for that party. It's really not a vote. What's funny is, like, they're trying to convince women to vote for Republicans off the pretext that they deny biological existence? Okay. When the Republican Party openly makes, sexist remarks and is trying to restrict the reproductive rights of women throughout the entire country. So this is they don't want to open this door. They're just not a well-suited party to appeal to the woman vote. Apparently this person is a woman and rejects the Democratic Party. That's weird. I mean, they exist. But, damn, okay. Also, their lines of attack have been terrible, like this from Lives of TikTok. Imagine 4 years of this. It's like, okay, imagine 4 years of them laughing? I mean, and having fun? And smiling and walking? Like, what? Oh my god, they're literally, okay, so they're literally, the line of attack here is that she laughs weird. It's so insane. America couldn't survive 4 years of this cat. I legit, like, it's so hard to tell if, like, it's a joke, because they openly do propaganda for conservatives, like Lives of TikTok. So, like, I think that she actually, like, believes this. it's, it's a nothing burger. It's just her laughing. I don't... It's wild. It's wild. Insane in the membrane. Oh, man, yeah. And I also noticed, fuck, what else? Oh my god, yeah, the whole Olympics thing. We'll get into that too. Ben Shapiro has some really, like, actual brain-dead political analysis whenever I see him. It's crazy. Like, I think, so here's the thing with Ben Shapiro. I think, like, he's actually smart, but he's completely, like, motivated through financial gain and through the propagation of conservative talking points. I think that's basically what is happening, and that's why he, like, says stupid shit. And, oh yeah, here we go. He says the media is overwhelming sycophancy for Harris is going to drive serious backlash. With no, by the way, no, nothing to substantiate that. Voters will be reminded just who she is, and she is not a moderate, a tough on crime prosecutor, or a kindly, cool auntie. She is a historically incompetent radical leftist who lies constantly. So her policy prescriptions, or her voting record, definitely is more progressive. I don't think that, that he's basically just saying that, like, them constantly putting a spotlight onto Harris is going to expose weaknesses, which, like, it doesn't matter because she's running for president and she's likely to get the nomination, a spotlight's already on her. It doesn't matter. This part right here is completely irrelevant to the point. Also, they have a real gripe against Stephanopoulos. I guess because he's biased or something. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with how Trump was backing out of a debate, or at least being non-committal to a debate. They wanted to debate Biden because he's senile and whatever, like they can body him. But now that they have to face a more competent debater, they definitely don't want to put themselves in that position. So that's why they're being non-committal and running, etc. Which isn't surprising, you know. I'm just saying what else this idiot posted, because a lot of what he shares is just ridiculous. But it's funny though, because a lot of conservatives are like in panic mode over this switcheroony with Kamala. Man, it's crazy, yeah. Also, Kamala's like record. I shouldn't say record. I should say her rhetoric because I haven't seen her record on Gaza, Israel. But what has this is a quote from her from Pop Crave. I don't know where it comes from, so whatever. But what has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves. This is a really, like, I would say solid statement from a sitting U.S. president, just because and honestly, it even reflects kind of like the approach Biden took with regards to Israel, because it wasn't like he just let Netanyahu do everything without some like without any pushback or anything, because Biden pressured Netanyahu, for example, to open humanitarian corridors throughout Gaza, and he also has suggested, I think he even said explicitly actually with his national intelligence agency or whatever, that like he was willing to reevaluate like his relationship with Israel itself if they didn't seek to ensure the safety of people living in Palestine. So, I mean, like, he definitely pushed back, and this is kind of a reflection of that kind of sentiment. So, I think right now, like, we have a very, it's going to sound crazy, but I think this is, like, the most anti-Israel administration we've seen. And it's not even like they're being super anti-Israel anyway. But even in spite of that, it doesn't, like, change the hearts and minds of, like, far lefties, just because they think that the only acceptable thing that a sitting U.S. president can do, and I don't even know if this is true, I'm just speculating, is that they need to cease all funding and all resources to Israel, condemn everything, and engage in the same virtual or same grandstanding like rhetoric that they themselves employ online. I think that's like the only thing. And even then, I don't think that would be enough, because they would just say they're all war criminals anyway. So, also, it's really weird that they say that Israel doesn't have a right to defend themselves when they 100,000% do. It's absurd, yeah. But like her position on the Israel conflict is absolutely like more progressive than like I think any other president we've seen. Not just her, but like I think Biden has reflected that kind of behavior too. RNC Research, by the way, is doing such a great job at promoting Kamala. Like, God bless them. Because they're putting in the fucking work that some Democrats are unwilling to.
We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open, sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that fucking door down. Excuse my language.
I don't know what the issue is. Like, what is even, like, trying to be portrayed here? Like, what do you... So she swore and you're getting mad about it? Like... Okay. There's, like, nothing there, you know? Oh yeah, another thing Ben Shapiro said. Fuck me.
Qualifications look like other exactly do her qualifications look like other than, you know, again, the sort of intersectional magic of Kamala Harris and the fact
I'm not sure why that's so quiet, but we'll deal with it.
that Democrats have to manufacture enthusiasm for, I've never seen this much manufactured enthusiasm for anyone outside of maybe Taylor Swift's last album. It's amazing.
I'm not sure what he means by manufactured. Does he mean, like, it's fake enthusiasm? Because she received, like, record number of small dollar donations from, like, grassroots funding. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. It's so obvious. You cringe when you.
I mean, it's not. It's okay. God damn, there was some other shit too that they just fucking. Oh yeah, the childless cat lady thing. Basically, oh my god, JD Vance has been like horrible for conservatives.
Via the Democrats, via our corporate saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable.
It's funny that he says oligarchs would. Elon Musk literally was saying that he would pay off Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump said he needs to take care of him because he's going to give him a lot of money or something. Pretty crazy, right?
At their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
That's absurd. Who cares? That's another thing. They want to, like, go after the woman vote, but at the same time, they're saying if you don't have children, then your vote doesn't really matter or shouldn't matter. Incredible shit, man. Oh yeah, and then there's a whole... Oh, man. This Elon interview, with Jordan Peterson, I didn't find the whole thing, and I don't really care to watch it anyway, but... He's talking about his daughter, and how he's basically an asshole to her, and because she's trans, and that's that.
So I was tricked into doing this, and it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs.
Okay.
So.
Also, what does it mean tricked into? What are you talking about? You didn't know what the fuck you were doing with your child? It sounds like you're a failed parent then, by your own standards. Like, you're a failed parent. If I'm in the mind of a conservative and I'm a transphobe, then as a parent, you're a failure. Because why did you allow your child to be subjected to these sterilization drugs? Like, you didn't read, or you didn't read anything, you didn't do any research, you didn't do shit, like...
Anyway, and so I lost my son, essentially. So, they call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right, so the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead. Killed by the woke mind virus.
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be.
I love how this is framed around Elon Musk too, by the way. Like, he's the victim here. Like, his daughter, by the way, is like the recipient of like so much harassment online. And he's the one who's a victim here because he was tricked into giving his child puberty blockers?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
So,
what a way to reframe this.
Yeah, and there's lots of people in that situation now.
Right.
It's not pretty, and lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a good reason to be the final straw.
He says a lot of demolished kids, but the majority of children experiencing gender dysphoria who go through puberty blockers or who are prescribed puberty blockers end up fully transitioning later in life and are happier as a result. So he's just full of shit when he says that.
All right, so let's...
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that.
By the way, it's also interesting that he describes it as the woke mind virus, which initially was a meme across the far right, but has permeated throughout, like, just conventional, like, vernacular among conservatives, so now they just use it nonchalantly, which is kind of interesting. What are they doing? They're just staring at each other? This is, like, really uncomfortable.
And we're making some progress.
Join the club.
Yeah.
This is so weird. Okay. Oh yeah, I saw this too. This is nice.
Trump and Butler County's J.D. Vance are the last chance to save our country politically. I'm afraid if we lose this one, it's going to take a civil war to save the country, and it will be saved. It's the greatest experiment in the history of mankind. And if we come down to a civil war, I'm glad we got people like Schmitty and the Bikers for Trump on our side.
So the same party that said that the rhetoric from Democrats have led to the assassination attempt on Trump, when they're spouting shit like this day in and day out.
Trump and Butler County's J.D. Vance are the last chance to save our country.
The last chance to save our country. So if you don't vote for these people, then the country is fucked, and we need to take a civil war to change the outcome.
Politically.
So they're just, basically it's just like a threat of violence, to be honest. The same people who whine and bitch and moan constantly about Democrats turning up the political temperature are actually the ones with their hand on the dial. And that's been the case since 2016. Dude, they got They have nothing, okay? It just keeps on coming. They got nothing against Kamala. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic nominee for the President of the United States, somebody who's attractive? Like... Look at this shit. Oh my god. They're even getting roasted in their own... This is wild. They got nothing, dude. If they want to attack her, go after like her record or something. Like... It's... yeah, Jesus. Oh yeah, and I saw this. Now, to be fair, okay, this was before they received their talking points. They were going after Kamala Harris for wanting to ban plastic straws.
She wants to ban plastic straws. I love my plastic straw. I hate those paper straws.
Yeah. I didn't show it, it's only like 6 seconds, but yeah. Also, some people were even like after Kamala declared, you know, or after Biden stepped down and it was looking like Kamala would be the nominee. It's not official yet, but it looks like it will be. Kamala, some people are making the argument that she's not qualified to be president, like she's not eligible actually because her parents were natural born citizens. Obviously, it's not true. And they're just trying to delegitimize the fact that she's capable of running the country. And so they cope by saying she's not eligible to even run for president. And it's funny that they always make this argument when it comes to, like, people of color who are running, because they just cannot grasp the fact that a person of color can lead a nation or be, you know, run for office or whatever, so... Also, and the anti-Israel crowd is just obsessed with just dogging her, which it's fine. I mean, if you want to, or whatever, fine. If you have your issues and you want to criticize her for it, fine. But like, this is just like, first off, raging Zionist. I think that's a bit hyperbolic. Unconditional support is also just factually, it's a factual inaccuracy. It's not like correct. She's called for a ceasefire, and that's outlined there too, but they have to engage in hyperbole at all times, and it's kind of like the same thing that conservatives do, but the far left does it a little more obnoxiously, I think, just because, like, if you're not, I don't know how to describe it, like, the way they employ this hyperbolic language is just more annoying, in my opinion. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, I saw this, too.
Take back the White House from crooked Joe Biden and...
This almost looks like AI, or maybe I'm just crazy. I'm probably crazy.
Kamala, I call her Laughing Kamala. You ever watch her laugh? She's crazy. You know, you can tell a lot by her laugh. No, she's crazy. She's nuts. She's not as crazy as Nancy Pelosi. Crazy Nancy. Did you see Nancy Pelosi is selling out Biden now? Did you see?
So, there's like no substantive critique here. It's just like she laughs weird, which is interesting because, like, if she's a Marxist and she's a fucking crazy person, then highlight the, like, material that makes her crazy from a policy prescription or position. Like, why wouldn't you just do that then? Instead, it's just she laughs weird.
She turned on him like a dog. Well, I don't know if he should continue. All of a sudden, where did that come from?
That's been happening for a long time.
She was 100%. All of a sudden, she's not sure. Not sure means he's gone. But no, she's crazy as a bedbug. She's a...
Okay, it's pointless. It's literally pointless watching that, actually, because you're not getting any insight into anything. Oh my god. Well, that's that. Also there was Netanyahu visited the Capitol building, I think, or he visited DC. He came to visit the United States, and there was a protest outside, and like people were burning shit and all that, whatever. And he, in response, I think, had called for a jail sentence for people who desecrate the flag. Now, if you know anything about U.S. politics, even if you're a casual, I think you would understand that burning the American flag is protected under free speech. This has been established since 1989, and I just feel like it's like very common, like it's a very commonly held belief among people who are even casuals to political discourse, like they know that, but he says that those people are quote-unquote stupid people. But he wants to make it unconstitutional as well. He said that there should be a 1-year jail sentence for anyone who desecrates the American flag in the wake of the anti-Israel protests over the war in Gaza outside of Union Station in Washington, D.C. that included the burning of an American flag. Trump, who had previously called for criminalizing burning the flag, scoffed at those who point out it's not illegal to do so. He said, quote, "You should get a 1-year jail sentence if you do anything to desecrate the American flag." Now people will say, "Oh, it's unconstitutional." Those are stupid people. Those are stupid people that say that, the former president continued. We have to work in Congress to get a 1-year jail sentence. When they're allowed to stomp on the flag and put lighter fluid on the flag and set it afire, when you're allowed to do that, you get a 1-year jail sentence. You'll never see it again. It's... okay. Now, again, this is protected under the 1989 case of Texas v. Johnson that said that burning the American flag was protected under the First Amendment, which, obviously. And I believe, like, even, like, conservative judges have upheld this decision. But, I mean, both sides of the aisle condemned the demonstrations anyway, because there was Hamas flags present there, and there were people who were arrested, so yeah, that's just kind of what it is. But, anyway. Yeah, obviously, there's nothing for me to add to this, outside of the fact that, like, you know, he hates the Constitution, which I already knew that. So, yeah, pretty wild, to be honest with you. Trying to think if there... oh, yeah. We gotta watch... this is gonna be so good. This guy's like my favorite person to watch now, for the wrong reasons. So I've been watching this dude, through proxy, Piers Morgan, and, boy oh boy, he's wild. So the thing with Piers Morgan is that he is basically... how do I put this? he's kind of, I don't want to, it's going to sound hyperbolic, just bear with me, but he's kind of like a crypto fascist because he doesn't forwardly and in fact rejects the notion that he is a Republican and insists upon the fact that he has criticized the right as much as he criticizes the left, or at the very least he strongly implies that that's the case. If you examine and look through his content, you will come to the quick realization that that's not true. And we can take a look at that here. God, there's so, this is like a gold mine. I don't want to like dwell on it too much, but like, man, let's see. Okay, I didn't see this one yet, so we'll
Operation Coconut Tree is underway. God help you.
That's funny.
Good to see you both on set here.
You're freaking out. You Trump shills are freaking out, aren't you? You don't know what the attack is going to be.
It's very, well, here's the interesting question, isn't it? I'm seeing all the excitement for...
So, okay, not to poison the well too much, but like I said, he postures as though he's a centrist. However, the questions he asks are very right-leaning in both framing and intention, and from what I've seen from him, suggests to me that he just conceals the fact that he is a Republican by pretending that he criticizes both sides. So we'll take a look and kind of unravel this.
Kamala Harris. But I believe it will be
I won't
quite
watch
a
the whole thing,
short-lived
just a little bit.
honeymoon.
Could be.
And then reality will kick in. 4 months, I spoke to Trump on Saturday night, and I said, how are you feeling about it? He said, listen, if one thing I've learned in the last 3 weeks, 4 months is going to be a very, very long time in this political cycle. And he's right. First of all, this decision by Joe Biden tonight to address the nation, but
I'm not
almost...
super interested in Biden here. I want to hear what they views on abortion. That's
It's
gonna be
about
interesting.
abortion rights. Take a look at this.
And we, who believe in
I can't turn it
reproductive
up anymore,
freedom, will stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion bans because we trust women to make decisions about their own body.
Dude, she's got like a home run platform to run on. Conservatives want to take away your rights. I want to give you right. I mean, it's like a slam dunk. Like, the only people she's really turning away with this rhetoric are people who wouldn't be voting for her anyway. But also, like, the Christian fundamentalist sort of crowd, I think, would be turned away from this rhetoric too. But, like, otherwise, like, I don't really think... This is, like, a very resonating message, in my opinion. And you know what she could also do, and she kind of just did here, is play into the fact that, like, look, conservatives claim that they are small government, but, like, if you look at what they do, like, they very clearly want big government when it is convenient to them. So they are just completely inconsistent with their ideology. They're big government when it comes to restricting the rights of people, but they're small government when it comes to giving tax breaks to their buddies and to large corporations, and that's the line of attack that should be employed.
How important do you think abortion rights are going to be, and how confusing is the Republican position on this?
Let me answer that. Let me... Whoa. Almost choked there. Let me answer that, Piers. Abortion rights and... what was the other thing you said?
Do you think abortion rights are going to be, and how confusing is the Republican position on it?
Well, okay, first off, abortion rights are really important this election cycle because Roe v. Wade was overturned, and I think that that's going to resonate with a bunch of voters to come out and vote for the person who wants to give you your rights back. So I think that's going to resonate a lot with the women vote. And honestly, I could see a record turnout for the women vote this election cycle. 100%. As far as the confusing nature of the Republican messaging, how did he word it?
How important do you think abortion rights are going to be, and how confusing is the Republican position on this?
It's not really confusing. They're pretty clear cut on the fact that they're they want to protect the fetus, and they want to protect so they want to make it so that abortion's illegal. I mean, it's really simple. And there's some like probably more moderate conservatives that want to draw exceptions to like rape and incest, but unfortunately I think that proportion of conservatives is growing smaller and smaller, and it's becoming more a holistic abortion ban outright. So their position is pretty clear, I think. But as far as the messaging is concerned, I think that there's variance in how they're communicating that to the American people. So I don't know.
Here's the deal. Abortion rights it should be a non-starter. We resolve that with the Dobbs decision. It's a state's right. I don't understand. The Republicans are falling into the Democrat trap of making this election about abortion and deflecting about the issues of the border, deflecting about public safety.
Yeah, so like that's like the thing that conservatives want to harp on is the border, and because like they can play into the fact that Kamala was a VP during the administration of Biden, who allowed for millions and millions and millions and millions of immigrants to come in, or something like that.
When Anthony here says, hold on, let me finish. When Anthony says that Americans just want to get to work and do their job and support their families, how about allowing and creating an environment where Americans can get to work alive? Because in many cases right now, the crime is absolutely rampant.
That's ridiculous. Crime rates, United States, 2020 to present. I'm just curious. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just curious. So this is from the 2022. Crime rate since looks like 92, which I already knew the answer to this because I just knew it, have been decreasing per 100,000 of the population. In 2020, it went up, and that was because of COVID creating social unrest as well as George Floyd. But since then, it's been going down. So the fact that it's like rampant is obviously untrue. If you look at violent crime, however, I'm curious what those statistics look like. Violent crime is this is 2 years old. I think that's the number reported violent crimes total. Okay, 1,232,428. So that's not really a lot. And it shows an overall downward trend with only these little spikes here. I would say 2020 is an outlier just because of, like I said, George Floyd and all that. But yeah, crime's not an issue.
Just yesterday, an 18-year-old...
Without abortion, answer the
Oh, look, and he defers to a personal anecdote of a story headline or something, which is probably true, and I mean, I'm not going to question logic, but it's not really illustrating the point that there's a broad trend of rampant crime.
I answered. My position on abortion is irrelevant.
What's Trump's?
Trump's position's been very clear. It's a state's issue. It's a state's issue.
Oh, so he's in favor of what it is in New York.
Well, it's a state's issue.
Right. So he's in favor of what it is in New York.
He supports the Constitution. The 10th Amendment supports that the states decide what's best for themselves, and that's a done deal. Stop trying to federalize abortion.
I just want to understand. And maybe you can explain, Piers, because you're close with Tom.
No, you don't want to understand.
No, I do.
He's not even giving him a chance.
You want to rope Republicans into your abortion talk. We don't have to talk abortion.
Anthony. Wait, is he like denying the fact that abortion is an issue that Americans care about? Because it obviously is an issue, just as much as it is like immigration.
It is kind of an issue.
How important do you think
it's a non-issue. I just want to understand.
A non-issue? Come on, dude. It's not even true.
Republicans' position on abortion has always been that they're pro-life, right? But now they apparently are pro-choice because they say they want to let New York decide, and we decide. Okay, so what is the position of Donald Trump on the fundamental? I've never met a politician, and I know George is not one of these, who doesn't.
Is your concealed carry firearm rattling around in your
thank
vehicle
you
center
so
console?
much.
Are you tired of having to stash it in the bed?
Have a position on abortion.
Well, I know his
it's
position.
A fundamental right. Go ahead. What is it?
Well, he's made it clear through briefings to friendly media.
And the Supreme Court appointments that he's made.
He believes that he personally believes in something like a 15-week term limit, right? Which is not unreasonable.
It's not.
Oh my God, he's the dude. Oh my God, okay. Here's Morgan, dude. Like, you say you're not conservative or you're centrist, you criticize both sides, but like you literally just said that it's like not unreasonable Trump's stance on abortion. Like, okay.
reasonable.
However,
I can get behind
However,
that.
his overarching belief is it should return to the states to make decisions.
Okay, but that's not the overarching. You either believe that.
Also, is that even true? Is his stance on abortion like at the 11 or 15-week period? Because my stance is at the third trimester. I don't think abortion should be allowed past the third trimester, with the only exception being the life of the mother. That's my position. So I'm curious. That's a lot more moderate than I would have expected Trump to have, which makes me question whether or not that's true.
Has this constitutional right to her own body, or you don't. And the Supreme Court has said there is no such right. One state can decide one thing, another state can decide. And what I'm asking is, what is the position of Donald Trump? Does he really believe in New York's position, which is a very generous abortion law?
He believes it's not generous, it's beyond generous.
That is
right?
a trick.
No, he believes
really?
in
what way? In what way, George?
I mean, come on, Anthony Weiner. In the state of New York, there are no limits to abortion at this point. If you slice it and dice it the way it is,
you believe the federal government should be in that decision?
No,
I
don't believe the federal government should be in that
decision. So it should
decision.
only be the woman and her doctor and her church and whatever else.
I'm going to make this very clear. In the state of New York, a woman at the 6th month of gestation is allowed to have an abortion. I was born at the 6th month of gestation. So to say that there's no life, it's just a fetus.
Who should decide?
I think
government?
I think that's a personal decision.
State legislature?
Sorry, I just.
You're saying this
like the issue of abortion has been belabored so much, and I feel like the jury's out on that. So
personal decision between
Donald Trump says it should be the.
But still remain the President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief. How do you feel about it? And by the host of No Lie and the author of Shameless, Brian Tyler Cohen. Okay, Tommy, you are a woman, the only woman on this panel. This issue of, well, first of all, let's start with something you've been very big on.
Identity
for the last 2
politics.
years. Joe Biden's fitness to continue being president. I'm completely bemused why somebody of his advanced age showing such signs of cognitive disrepair and rapid decline can quit a race 4 weeks almost before the election, but still remain the President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief. How do you feel about
that? And so my opinion on this is like pretty simple. Biden only has a couple months until the election, so who gives a fuck? Like, why is this an issue? Like, that's another line of attack I didn't talk about yet, but like basically they make it sound like because he's not running for re-election because of presumably his health issues and his polling, that this therefore means how is he fit to serve the rest of his term, which who gives a fuck? I mean, like, he's the president, so I mean, whatever, it's only a couple months, and plus he's not even the only person running the country.
Sorry, well, Piers, listen, I'm a little bit hesitant to say that he should resign his office because I really don't want a President Kamala Harris. So I will tell you that, just to be quite frank with you. But we're expecting to hear from the current president tonight. I hope that he'll clear some of this up. But if, in fact, he does speak tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern and he tells us that he dropped out simply because he thought he was going to lose, well, that's, again, another notch on the belt for the party that believes in democracy.
Nope, not even close. He pulled out before the nomination process even took place. He was well within his right to drop out of the race for re-election. It has nothing to do with democracy being at stake, or there's no contradiction there whatsoever.
And they want to uphold it at all costs. I mean, dropping out 100 days before a general election because you're losing doesn't exactly scream democracy to me, Piers. But I'll tell you this, he owes the American people a lot of answers. Vice President Kamala Harris owes the people a lot of answers. What did she know? She apparently has little lunchy lunches with Joe Biden often. She's obviously seen the cognitive slippage. So we need to hear from her too, and we can't just move on. I know that Democrats want to just move on to...
Yeah, we want to move on because we have a new nominee. Yep. Like, they still want to make this about Biden, which is so funny to me.
100 days of Operation Coconut Tree Brat Kamala, but we still have a lot of questions and we deserve answers. They subverted the entire primary process. They should be in the hot seat for that.
Okay, that's not true. They didn't subvert the primary process at all. We didn't even have the primaries yet. Like, we're still in the primary season. He's allowed to drop out if he wants.
Piers.
Yeah, but Brian Tyler Cohen, it does seem to be almost a coronation going on of Kamala Harris. This is not the will of the people, as your people power, as she tries to depict it. It's the power of the grandees of the party.
That's also not true. Kamala Harris saw a record number of small dollar donations that was raised through grassroots support by tons of different Americans, and a lot of them were first-time donors as well. To say that it was powered by the powers that be or oligarchs or something to that effect is just also false.
Donors who were yanking their money from Biden and then suddenly give it all to Harris. And Hollywood has joined in. I don't see the people getting involved in this process at all.
Because you're not looking for it. If you were actually paying attention to some capacity, then you would recognize the fact that she received plenty of small dollar donations from like hundreds of thousands, maybe over a million, donors, individual donors.
Well, I think the people, how they feel is reflected already immediately in the polling. I mean, we just had the Reuters Ipsos poll come out in the last couple of days here, and it already shows Kamala Harris beating Trump 44-42. That is a poll not of donors, not of Hollywood celebrities, but of actual people.
Yeah, look, that's right, but they didn't vote for Kamala Harris to be president.
Doesn't matter. The Democratic, the way that the primaries function is that they, on a certain date, pledge their superdelegates and all their delegates, whatever. And the official, you are the nominee, ceremony, process, whatever you want to call it, happens, I think, in August 7th, or it happens in early August, or mid-August, actually. But yeah, so this is a ridiculous, talking point.
Right, and they didn't vote for her to be running as president.
They voted for the Biden-Harris ticket. She has been the vice president for 4 years. She's already...
I know, if this was, some random fucking, dude, okay? If this was Gavin Newsom, or if this was, somebody else that wasn't even, if it was anybody but Kamala Harris, then I think that this would be a little more justified, and even then I wouldn't think it's justified, but it would be a little more justified. The fact that they were sending money to Biden-Harris, and now Biden stepping down for health-related reasons, and Kamala is presumably now the nominee, their money that they sent to Biden, I mean, it's not really that big of a leap for people to recognize that it was also going to Kamala. Now that it's not really a big deal.
When Americans donate to the Biden-Harris campaign, they're donating to both of them. She's legally able to take advantage of the war chest that she and Joe Biden raised together, and so that's where we're at right now.
Okay, I want to play a clip, and I'll start with you guys here at the desk first, and then go to the other two about this. Van Jones on CNN said black men will defend Kamala Harris, and Joy Reid on MSNBC said all black people need to vote for Kamala Harris too. Let's watch these two pieces of footage.
All right, I can already tell you what's going to happen. They're going to be like, why are they speaking for black people? Why are they speaking for them? They have their own minds, and this is actually racist. And yeah, it's going to be that.
You start insulting black women, you're going to see something you haven't seen before. Black men are not going to put up with that. I was on a phone call with 20,000 black men. The word protect came up about 1,000 times. Protect this sister. Protect this sister. We're going to protect her. Protect her. You're about to see something you haven't seen before. Look, people messed around with Hillary Clinton and said a bunch of mean stuff to her. Black men set that out. We won't set this out. So I don't think that the Republican Party understands that all the work that they did trying to get us over there, two more days of this, it's going to be a problem.
So this is more of an appeal to emotion, which I guess is a form of argumentation, I guess. But to me, it doesn't really work just because that's not something I really predicate my opinions on. But yeah.
Anthony Weiner, I mean, I felt quite uncomfortable watching that. Did you? I mean, is it right to suddenly make a...
Uncomfortable is a strong word. I would just say it's a little cringe. But if it was a white person saying that, then it would be a lot more cringe, yeah.
Big deal of racial divide and racial voting and so on those grounds. Is it right to look at Kamala Harris in that context if you're a black person in America?
Yeah, I'm going to speak for black people in America right now. He's a black guy talking about how blacks are going to respond to a black candidate. If you want to ask me how Jews would respond to Shapiro, I can do that. But
how would you?
He's doing he's doing commentary on how black men are going to respond to commentary is what people do. I don't know what the big deal is.
But I've read seen a lot of Democrats in the last 2 days saying they don't want Republicans to make her race an issue, and yet here you have people like Van Jones, I've got a lot of respect for him, making her race very much an issue.
You guys are struggling. One guy's complaining about lunches. You're complaining about that they're proud of black women running.
So I'm not. It's not we guys.
I understand. I'm trying to play along here. Look, I think that people can talk about her record. They can talk about her race. They can talk about whatever they want. But the idea that she's a DEI hire, she was a United States senator.
I don't agree with that.
I know, of course you don't. But I'm saying that people have every right to be proud of the fact that an African woman, Caribbean American woman, Indian, whatever, all of her different things.
You can't even figure out what she is.
What does that even mean? What point is he trying to make? What? You don't even know what race she is. Like, why does that matter? I mean, she can be proud. Like, we obviously know she's a minority. That's like the thing that matters, right? And it's kind of cool that a woman of Asian Pacific, Jamaican descent is like running on the ticket and it's probably going to be in the nominee. That's pretty cool. It's the first time it's ever happened.
I know, because people are complicated in this country. You of all, George Santos, understand that people come from different places.
George Santos understand, but what I'm trying to say is she has a history, and I'm not going to debate whether she's black or not. I think that's absolutely where Democrats want us to go.
You're the only one mentioning that. But go ahead. What do you mean?
No. That is a debate. If you look on social media, that is where Democrats are sucking Republicans into.
Tell me more about this.
I'm going to make this
Tell me
very
that
clear.
she's not black.
It does not. I'm not.
Wait, is he actually making the argument or implying as such that Kamala isn't like black because she's like what?
To debate whether she's black or South Asian. She's not a DEI hire.
I'm not going to talk about whether she's black or not. Like, what the hell does that even mean?
However, Joe Biden did say he wanted to have a female vice president. He made a point.
Yeah, but that's not DEI hire, and plus she was also qualified for the position anyway.
He did. Strap in, white guys. We're gonna have a white vice president under Kamala.
Because they wouldn't be saying this if it was like some white dude. If it like Pete Buttigieg was a VP instead of Kamala, right?
Hang on, let me bring in Tommy. Tommy, it seems to me there is a contradiction here between this demand for the Republicans not to make her skin color or her gender an issue here. And yet here you have Van Jones and you have Joy Reid and others very much making her skin color an issue.
Dude, you're talking about one clip among a sea, rather an ocean of talking points that have come out since she was de facto anointed the Democratic nominee for the 2024 election. Like, there's an ocean of talking points. And you're focusing on this one identity politic thing that one person said on a show, on CNN. I think that we're just kind of blowing it up for the sake of blowing it up and having this stupid conversation because it fits into a narrative of like talking about identity politics.
Exactly. So the word DEI, or the acronym DEI, has become almost like woke did a few years.
I mean, the word DEI may as well just be, it's interchangeable with like the N-word. That's pretty much how it's been used commonly from conservatives. And by the way, they're the only people who've been using those words, or that word.
Years ago. It was so celebrated by the left, and now they're running away from it. I don't know why you guys run away from your own words on the left. But listen, you can't tout somebody as the potential first female black president and then say, but Republicans aren't allowed to say that. And
it's not that you're... Okay. First off, you're not being prohibited from saying anything. We're just making fun of you. But secondly,
just first female black president and then say, but Republicans aren't allowed to say that.
But it's not even just like you're pointing it out though. Like you're also just highlighting it as a weakness and a reason why like she may be unqualified to be president because she was a DEI hire. She was unqualified.
Just as
that is the implication. And that's kind of the issue because she is qualified. She's qualified to run for president. She's eligible. She was qualified for the vice president role too. So yeah.
Piers, this has been driving me nuts for days. There have been so many people that say on the left, you must vote for her if you're black. You got to vote for Kamala Harris because she's black. If you're a woman, you got to band together and vote for her because she's a woman. But then if Republicans say, oh, you're only voting.
Careful, that's not exactly true. The reason why people are saying you need to vote for Kamala if you're a woman is to protect your reproductive rights. It's not just because she herself is a woman. That's a bit of a straw man.
For her because she's a black woman, then all of a sudden, how dare you, you're racist and you're sexist. You can't have it both ways. Democrats, liberals.
Hold that thought about sexism. Hold that thought, Tommy. Hold that thought. God, I should have this shit on speed dial, because it's going to be so useful for the next couple months. What did you say, Tommy?
You're racist and say, oh, you're only voting for her because she's a black woman, then all of a sudden, how dare you, you're racist and you're sexist. You can't
Oh, okay, so you mean like how this happens right here, where people are being sexist and racist. Oh. Got it. Okay. Because this is obviously the theme that I have seen constantly on Twitter, which is a very large platform, and it's not just like getting like 5 likes or whatever. These are getting hundreds of thousands of likes. Tens of thousands of likes. I mean, it's yeah.
have it both ways, Democrats.
So the fact that she's characterizing it as like, well, you guys, we're just pointing it out that she was a DEI hire, and you're just getting mad because we're pointing it out. Well, that's not true, because you guys are actually just being sexist towards her and saying she's unqualified to be president. So that's the actual criticism that people are levying.
Liberals, leftists, you either celebrate DEI or we're not allowed to talk about DEI.
And I just didn't share that with you, but yeah, this is what I'm talking about right here. This is her being I mean, this is like a post being sexist and racist, you know. And I know for a fact that this is a thing that's just like pumped through the algorithm, because I see like tens of thousands of likes on this.
But you can't have it both ways. So either you're excited about it.
Hey, let me show you something real quick.
The problem is that she is assuming she just doesn't know what they're like, what's going. She's not like, she doesn't even have an understanding of what like the Democrats are saying is the problem. Because they're not cheering for her because of her like race or ethnicity or whatever. They're cheering for her mostly for the fact that her policy prescriptions are in alignment with the values that they hold themselves. And it is cool that like somebody who is, you know, potentially going to be the first female president is going to be the nominee. That's cool. But the criticism you guys levy isn't just that you're not just pointing out that she was like a DEI hire. You're pointing out that she's unqualified and making sexist and racist remarks.
Pick a lane. Operation Coconut Tree is underway. God help ya.
Okay, Brian, you said this. You made a video saying that Kamala Harris was Trump's nightmare. You said if you could scientifically engineer the worst possible candidate for Trump to run against, she would probably look like Kamala Harris. Why would she look like Kamala Harris?
Well, instead of this election becoming a referendum on Joe Biden's age, now it's a referendum on two things. It is, one, the fact that you now have a prosecutor going up against a convicted felon, and she is able to, no pun intended, prosecute this case extremely effectively. And we saw that in her Wisconsin speech right off the bat, where she didn't shy away from this issue. She didn't hide from it. She went right in, and she talked about how she spent her career fighting against con men and frauds and sexual predators and cheats. Donald Trump is all of those things. So that's the first thing. The second is that she spent the last year going around the country, crisscrossing the country, speaking to young people, going to colleges, talking about the issue of abortion and reproductive rights. And Donald Trump has come out and taken credit for appointing 3 Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe, and he is proud of it. He talks about it over and over and over again. So you have a prosecutor against a convicted felon, and you have somebody who is responsible for the deeply, deeply unpopular policy of stripping women's reproductive rights, versus somebody whose goal here is to make sure that she signs legislation to codify reproductive rights.
Yeah, and that's like why it's like a slam dunk here, especially the whole prosecutor versus felon dynamic, that is such like a huge like that's such a huge asset to her. And like from an image perspective, it just like, you know, says like, look, I'm the person who's going to be taking care of that. I'm the person who will be prosecuting the person that dodges the drafts, who evades taxes and does this, this, and that. And like, this is kind of like the dynamic that's at play here. And that's why she's a really good candidate, I think, for this election cycle, for sure.
And George, let me ask you, George, about this clip. This is actually J.D. Vance talking about Kamala Harris and calling her a childless cat lady. Let's take a look at this.
Effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children.
I mean, that kind of rhetoric is going to get dug up about J.D. Vance, who's now the vice president of Trump's choice, his VP running mate.
Wasn't my first pick.
Right, but he is the pick, right? How potentially damaging, now that it's not Joe Biden there, but it is a woman that J.D. Vance has called a childless cat lady. In other words, if you have two guys who've talked derogatorily about women against a young, like by Trump's case, younger woman, how problematic could that be?
Well, Pierce, look, everybody's going to try to take things people said about Kamala Harris in the past, but I love how everybody tries to talk about what they say about Kamala, and nobody takes outrage on how Trump's been treated unfairly by...
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so I see what's happening. So he's going to basically obfuscate from what the claim was, or rather what the question was, in regards to how much of a liability, how much damage do you think this VP pick was for Trump, and spin it around on its head and be like, well, nobody talks about this other thing. Okay.
Every single politician in the Democratic Party,
Yep.
Democrats have railroaded this man since the day he came down the golden escalators, and all of a sudden they get outraged because Trump said some, you know, whatever BS about...
Yeah, it's a whataboutism, yeah.
Kamala Harris. J.D. Vance speaking about Kamala Harris. That's J.D. Vance's views. Are we now going to say that all the views and words out of J.D. Vance's mouth are Trump's, endorsed by Trump, just because he's the
Well, it's
VP?
interesting. I mean, politically...
It doesn't matter, because he's the VP selection from Trump. So he is on the ticket for Trump's reelection. Yeah, it doesn't matter if Trump himself endorses those claims.
I mean,
no, absolutely not.
If you pick someone as a running mate,
if that's the case,
then everything that they've said and done is on their record, and they're now attached to Donald Trump.
And that's why, by the way, who you pick as your VP is really important. It's because it opens up a line of attack from people in regards to what that VP said. So you need to pick your people, or you have to pick your, allies carefully.
If that's the case, then Kamala is Joe Biden 2.0, and we should tie this entire disastrous administration on her.
You guys were already going to do that anyway. And also, by the way, that's not really really surprising, given the fact she was the VP for Biden. So yeah, I mean,
and she's absolutely unfit to run for president.
But how problematic?
And again, he doesn't even answer the question. He just deflects.
Could it be now that it's not Biden, but it's Kamala Harris? J.D. Vance's kind of rhetoric about that kind of thing.
I don't know. I don't believe many people are persuadable in this election. You basically have a very small number of low information voters in the middle and a handful of states. But there was already kind of a referendum on the crazy of Trump. That's one of the reasons he got thrown out of office. And I think that to some degree, this kind of conversation about cat ladies, this conversation about DEI, about woke, I think it reminds the American people in that moderate center that they don't want to go back to that craziness. They want competence, and that's what they've had recently, and they're probably going to stick with it now that they got rid of the old guy they didn't want to vote for.
What competence are you talking about, Anthony? Please, can you entertain me and amuse me for a second?
Sure, I'd be glad to entertain you.
Hold on, I'm going to ask you this. The border, is that competence?
Wait, hold on. You cannot... No. You cannot pull this shit, okay? If you're a conservative and you bitch about the border, you cannot pull that shit for a second. Okay? God, I gotta find this shit. If you're if you're a conservative, you have no business bitching about the border, okay? Because, let's see. In recent weeks, because Trump is sabotaging openly any legislation that could seek to reform the border, so that way he can campaign on it. In recent weeks, Trump has been lobbying Republicans both in private conversations and in public statements on social media to oppose a border compromise being delicately hashed out in the Senate, according to the GOP sources familiar with the conversations. In part because he wants to campaign on the issue this November and doesn't want President Joe Biden to swear a victory in an area where he is politically vulnerable. This was also exemplified, by the way, by Mitch McConnell, who had acknowledged in a private meeting that Trump's animosity toward the yet-to-be-released border deal puts Republicans in a serious bind as they try to move forward in an already complex issue. So you have no business talking about the border when the GOP and Trump himself, more importantly, Trump here, has tried to torpedo any legislation that fixes the border that could have been pushed through Congress. No business bitching about the border.
So hold on. I'm going to ask you this. The border, is that competence?
Well, if you think that
Is it competence? Yes or
hold
not?
on a second. Donald Trump said in 2018-19 he needed new laws to defend the border. What happened to that?
Is this border competence? Yes or no?
No,
Anthony?
it's absolutely a mess.
Okay.
It was a mess in
Is inflation
2019.
competent? Yes
These
or
are the
no,
same laws.
Anthony?
Inflation is at 3%. Is that the Fed target? Yes, that's
All
exactly
right,
it is actually.
let me bring
Dude, he just, oh my god, that's true, by the way. Inflation is not really as much of an issue anymore. So like conservatives, like they'll try to like play that up leading into this election cycle, but like they can't really do it anymore just because we're reaching like a point where inflation is just not an issue. I'm pretty sure the average inflation rate right now is like 3.2% for this year, so it's definitely become a lot more manageable.
Everybody try to
hang on. Let me bring.
By the way, one last thing about that is that inflation really has little to do with the President of the United States. It has more to do with the Federal Reserve, which is only a quasi-government agency. So, to put blame or credit to Biden or Trump in regards to inflation is just kind of stupid.
I'm going to tell it to you.
Hang on. Let me bring in Tommy. Tommy, it seems to me that Trump would be much better advised, as would J.D. Vance, rather than going ad hominem with Kamala Harris, however ad hominem she gets with Trump. Better to try and rise above it. It's not his greatest quality doing that, but to rise above it and pick her off on her record while being vice president, most notably given her position as a kind of immigration czar, when really by any definition...
Again, right-wing framing from peers, because that's not something that's like a centrist or an unbiased, that's not an unbiased word. That's explicit conservative framing that they themselves coined. So he claims to be a centrist, but he's employing that rhetoric that they use and the terminology they use.
Definition of her performance, she's been a complete train wreck. She said, don't come in, and 8 million people promptly came in. Would you think that's a better strategy for Trump Vance?
You're going to take one quote? Wait. Okay, I'm going to have to do a little more research into like her immigration policy, because maybe it's not good, but I guarantee you it's a lot better than Trump, who wanted to suspend due process for illegal immigrants.
Literally go after the record.
And by the way, Trump said he wanted to get rid of DACA. He failed to do that, and the Supreme Court ruled against him because it violated the ACA. So Trump is a complete failure when it comes to immigration. So there is no business for conservatives. And by the way, like I already mentioned, them torpedoing any legislation that seeks to reform the immigration policy. They have no business come bitching about immigration whatsoever, because they themselves are failures in addressing it and in pushing forth legislation. Because they're motivated by like power. Like they need to run on the issue of immigration, so they wanted to stay a mess.
Not the woman.
I agree wholeheartedly. As much as I get a chuckle when Donald Trump calls her dumb as rocks Kamala or cackling Kamala, I laugh at that, but I'm also a diehard Trump supporter and a Trump voter. But I do worry, and I've been cautioning my own party and Trump supporters about this for the last few days, that it's not going to play well when Donald Trump does it with moderates and with the suburban women that he needs to win over. So I agree with you. Donald Trump needs to channel every ounce of presidential attitude that he has in his being, which for him might not be so easy. And he has to channel that, and he has to focus on policy, and he has to focus on rising above and really uniting the country.
Yep, I 100% agree with what Tanya says, yep. So, I agree with what she's saying here, yeah.
At this point, because if he just goes on the tirades with the name calling, it's not going to play well with the people that he needs to win. We might love it. We think it's hilarious, but he really has to buckle down. Same thing with JD Vance. And to the abortion point, you guys all know where I stand on abortion. I'm much more moderate than most conservatives are on this issue, and expect Democrats to resurrect 2022.
I wonder what her position actually is, though, on abortion. She's obviously pro-life, but like, I wonder what her position is.
And try to win on abortion, especially with Kamala as their nominee. It's going to be a blind spot for the Republican Party, and I would highly advise that J.D. Vance not make any super pro-life comments if he wants Donald Trump to win. It's going to be a huge blind spot, so that's just my warning. Some conservatives are not going to like to hear me say that, but it's the truth, and y'all need to hear it.
I think you're completely right. Brian, it seems to be a question of unity. One trick that Kamala Harris missed in her speech, it was not a bad speech at all. But one thing she didn't do, she didn't allude to the assassination attempt on Trump. And it's only been 9 days since someone tried to murder Donald Trump and actually...
Yeah, that's like an eternity from a news cycle standpoint.
...shot him in the ear, killing him by a quarter of an inch. Would it not have been a smart move in between calling him, you know, a sexual predator and a con man and a fake and blah, 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 very ad hominem stuff? Would it not have been...
Wait, what?
A sexual predator and a con man and a fake and blah, 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 blah.
He is a con man. Like, that's just proven.
But very ad hominem stuff.
And he does lie. Like, what do you... If he doesn't want to be called those things, maybe he shouldn't be those things.
Would it not have been a smart move in terms of unity had she just taken a moment?
Okay, this is another frustrating thing that I really need to talk about too. This whole idea of like unity, why is... I just don't get why the burden is always on liberals to be the ones who are unifying the country when conservatives on a consistent basis seek to propagate divisive rhetoric like all the time. You had somebody from JD Vance's rally saying that it will take a civil war to save this country. Like, why is the burden on liberals to fucking tone down the political environment? And why are they the ones who have to always, like... It's absurd. It's ridiculous.
To acknowledge the assassination attempt and say how pleased she was that he survived it. Something of that nature.
Why does she even need to say this? Like, first off, I feel like, if I go back, and I could be wrong here, but I feel like she did say, like, it was good that he survived, or, like, there's something to that effect. I'm sure she did. And if she didn't, then okay. But why does she need to... Why is it on her to extend this olive branch when she's running against a dude who tried to overturn the Democratic results of the election in 2020, who lies constantly, who ad hominems her, and her running, or her, and Biden, who ad hominems everybody? Why is it on her and liberals to be the grown-ups in the room? That's just absurd to me.
Piers, I find it so bizarre that the onus is always on the Democrats. It's always on the adults in the room to...
Well, oh my god, I'm a fucking Nostradamus here. Jesus Christ.
...to create unity. Where was everybody for the last 6 years calling for unity when Donald Trump was president?
Yes.
And, you know, as far as the violence is concerned, I feel like any effort to try to pin, again, the onus on Democrats in terms of lowering the temperature in this country is just a testament to the fact that the Republicans are graded on the curve. Remember, it was not the Democrats, while we're talking about political violence, it wasn't the Democrats who laughed at Paul Pelosi being bludgeoned with a hammer.
Yes.
That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for military tribunals for Liz Cheney. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't...
Also, he threatened to withhold coronavirus aid to blue states. And yeah. Like during COVID, he threatened to withhold any form of federal aid to blue states specifically.
Who laughed at a kidnapping plot against Gretchen Whitmer. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for General Mark Milley to be executed. That was Donald.
Not only that, they also called for Mike Pence to be hung as a consequence of not fulfilling his role in January 6th by overturning the election.
Donald Trump. Wasn't Democrats
was-
who posted
Brian,
a
but
baseball
Brian.
bat photo with Alvin Bragg and threatened death and destruction if he was charged. So in all of these examples, Piers...
Brian, stop making sense, Brian.
It is not the Democrats who've done this. It's not the Democrats who've validated the use of political violence as a tool in this country, and it shouldn't be on the Democrats all of a sudden.
Responsible gun owners.
He's fucking knocking it out of the park.
Room.
All right, Brian. To a point, Lord Copper, as we would say in the UK, right? It is the Democrats who for 8 years have screamed that he's Adolf Hitler.
Oh my god. You're just gonna completely ignore... First off, it's not true. Second off, you're just gonna completely ignore all the divisive rhetoric from the conservative side when you supposedly are centrist?
Fairly violent rhetoric. You're comparing him directly.
No, that's just ridiculous. No. Now, there certainly are some people who probably do compare him to Hitler, and those people are retarded. But, like, to say, like, it's a vast majority, or elected officials, that's a completely different conversation.
Absolute genocidal maniac.
Genocidal maniac? Who's saying this? He's just listening to, like... Is he getting his news from, like, the Daily Wire? Or the Blaze?
12 million people, including 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So when you do that, that is violent rhetoric.
Notice how he didn't have a response. Brian here pulled up all this shit that he said, right? And in response to it, it's just whataboutism, because he can't engage with a tough accusation. What about Democrats? They called him Hitler, which, first off, it's not really true, but, yeah, just so stupid.
If Donald Trump acts like a fascist, it is not the Democrats' fault for calling him a fascist.
You're saying he is?
That is his behavior.
Oh my god! And by the way, fascist doesn't necessarily mean you're on the level of Hitler.
Is Hitler?
No, absolutely not. But I'm saying he does act like a fascist. He does want to.
And he kind of does, because like he shows open disdain for like the Constitution and democracy itself. He unifies around the concept of persecuting minority groups. Rallying across, like, you know, nationalism, very ultra-national, like, yeah, it's pretty clear that he's, like, towing that line of fascists, yeah.
Consolidate power in the executive branch. He does want to send the military into American cities.
And he doesn't give a shit about the Constitution. He wanted to suspend the Constitution because of, quote-unquote, voter fraud on an unprecedented scale during 2020.
So you have no problem comparing him to Adolf Hitler?
He just said he wasn't Hitler. Piers is such a bad faith, like, person. Oh my god.
I am calling him a fascist. That's what I'm doing.
That's different.
Okay, let me bring it out to you.
By the way, doesn't J.D. Vance call him out?
He didn't. He was equally wrong.
And didn't Donald Trump use language like vermin of the people, like basically echoing the?
So do you think it's right to compare him to Adolf Hitler?
I don't like comparing people to Hitler, but I will say that.
But there's a but here.
There's a but.
Dude, just let him finish the thought.
Let him finish. Yeah. If you talk like a fascist, if you act like a fascist, tell me a little bit about this mass deportation, Piers. Oh, actually, George, you can help me with this.
No, I can help you. I can help you.
Well, hold on. You're doing a guest here. You're doing a guest is supposed to represent.
One question.
I know you want to play the part of Donald Trump's defender, but let's have the guy that actually.
That's true. He says that he's a centrist and that he's just the facilitator of this conversation, but that's not true. He's actually involving himself in a very direct way that is biased, like on the right-wing side.
Part of the moderators.
Actually, you both can do it, or all four of you can do it.
Anthony, try and contain yourself. Who was the biggest mass deporter of people in American presidential history?
Barack Obama.
Eisenhower.
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama.
Actually,
why is he even mentioning this? What does that have to do with anything?
The last time we had a mass
Obama. No, that's not.
A lot of people, yeah.
It's not up for suggestion. It's factual.
You asked me about mass deportation.
No, I'm saying, how's it going to?
Well, he's talking about mass deportation because Trump is the one on the ticket. He's the one running for president. Same with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Why are we talking about Obama?
You want to go?
Like, I guess the only thing you can draw between those two things is that Biden was Obama's vice president, but that doesn't make. Okay.
Obama, you want to talk about Biden. How's the mass deportation going to happen? You're holding up
That was a
signs
while
at your
ago, too.
convention. How's that going to work? Just walk me through it.
And by the way, no, this is another whataboutism because he's not addressing actually what like Trump's policy is on immigration and mass deportation. He wanted to ban all Muslims from the country. I mean, this is not like these two parties are not the same.
I just want to understand.
Let me ask you again. Who was the biggest deporter of people
I've already
in American
done the
history?
answer.
Which president?
Eisenhower.
No,
Barack Obama.
Eisenhower and Operation Wetback had more.
Obama deported 3 million people.
Ryan? The Democrats are very tough on
Was
the
that a good
border.
idea?
Democrats are tough on the border, no doubt about it.
If they're tough on the border, by the way, if they are tough on the border, they're deporting all these people, then why are they bitching about Democrats, or about the border, and about millions of people being flooding into the country if they apparently deport millions of fucking, of people anyway? Like, what do you can't have these two positions at the same time.
They were tough on the border.
Also,
In the past
Obama,
tense, they were.
Biden was good on the border.
No.
Thank you.
Don't try to
Thank
say-
you.
no,
Thank you, pal. I agree with you.
Barack Obama, Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein, they were great on the border.
So we
at one
know.
point.
So we
They
know
no
how
longer
Democrats.
are.
We
They
know
no
how
longer
Democrats
are.
do it.
No.
How do you guys do it?
Sorry,
Absolute nonsense.
You think so?
we have seen-
I did. You've got the poster, but you don't have a
Absolutely.
candidate
No,
with any
it's
position.
not that hard. It's not that hard.
Tell me. Oh, good.
Not
Hey,
that
hold on,
hard.
Piers. I want to hear this.
Start with every hotel here in Manhattan.
And do what?
Just empty them, vacate them out.
What do you mean vacate them out?
Get them back home.
Who's going to do that? Who are you going to hire to do
Come on,
that?
you have ICE. You already have the system in
Okay,
place.
so they're going to go. ICE, by the way, ICE is about 4,000 people. You're going to deport 12.
Expand ICE.
Okay, tell me a little bit more small government Republicans. You want to expand ICE to walk the streets, ask people for their papers.
You know,
We did
so-
that
What did
after
we say about
9/11.
fascism?
Anthony, you were a member
What
of
did we
Congress.
say about fascism?
You were a congressman. You were a congressman.
I know
We
it's
did that
not
after 9/11.
By the way, where are you going to deport them
Does-
if we don't have extradition
Anthony,
deals with them?
does deporting 3 million people make you a fascist then, by your criteria?
No.
Well, wait, did he ever imply that fascism means you deport millions of people? I mean, like, deportation is deportation could be a byproduct of a fascist regime, but I don't think it's a necessary requirement of being a fascist.
No, it makes you one of the best presidents in American history.
right, so you agree with mass deportation?
Biden.
You agree with mass deportation?
Obama, Biden, we know how that is.
So you agree with mass deportation?
I'm going to answer your question. You don't need to answer it 3 times. I answer every question. Mass deportation is a poster for Republicans. We saw how Obama, Biden do it. We know how they do it. Now, this is about the 2024. Pardon me,
country.
So it's fine if you do.
Pardon me.
That's how Biden does it.
No.
Fine if a Democrat.
By the way, if Donald Trump stood up and said, I want to be like Obama, Biden, I might vote for him.
Also, and like I said, this is completely meaningless because he's arguing about a statistic that took place under a person who is no longer president and who isn't running for president, and using it as a weaponization against Democrats as a whole, which is a ridiculous, really big stretch to make, to be honest.
Is that what he's saying? Is that what you're saying, George?
So if he said...
You want to be like Obama, Biden? I want to make sure I understand.
So, Anthony,
what about the one who has lunchy? Does she want to do that too?
Okay, let me come
You guys, well, listen,
okay.
at least you emulate the right people.
Let me come back to Tommy. Tommy, it does make me laugh when I hear Anthony talk about fascism, and one of the criteria is mass deportation, and then he salutes.
He didn't say it's a requirement. I'm pretty sure he said what I said. I would have to go back and double check, I guess. I could be wrong, but I don't think he said it was a requirement for fascism. He was implying that it was a byproduct of a fascist.
Barack Obama
No,
for being
the
the
hiring
greatest
of a bunch of
for being
police
the
officers to
greatest,
walk the street. Don't misquote me,
talking
Piers.
to Tommy for being the biggest mass deporter in the history of the United States in terms of any president, which he was. 3 million people he deported, right? So mass deportation is fascism if Trump plans it, but if it's done by Barack Obama, it is a magnificent thing which Trump should aspire to do.
Is that even true? Whoops. This is house.gov. I don't know how reliable this is. While the Obama administration deported 1.18 million people in the first 3 years, the number of deportations had been a little under 800,000 so far under Trump. Well, this was written in 2019. How many did Obama actually deport, though? Also, is this really all on Obama? Context is everything. This was written in 2019. This is just kind of dumb because it's Obama and it's not Biden, so it's not a perfect one-to-one. Okay, so this is interesting. This sparked increased criticism from immigrant rights organizations. In previous administrations, far more people attempted to enter the country and far more were turned away, often without a hearing before an immigration judge. That procedure used to be known as a voluntary departure, but is now called a return by the government. They all have the effect of a deportation, but there are more legal consequences for a removal than for a return. In totality, okay, I don't care about that. George Bush deported more than Obama, apparently, but okay. More than 5 million were removed or returned during the Obama administration. These numbers alone don't tell us the whole story, though. According to Obama administration officials, well, could be a bit biased here, so let's take that with a grain of salt. A straight numbers by numbers comparison doesn't provide an accurate picture of what was going on in administration. She argues that Obama prioritized deporting people convicted of serious crimes and recent arrivals who had no criminal records. That's actually maybe fair to take into consideration when we're looking at deportation numbers, because like there are circumstances that have nothing to do with your supposed, I guess, bigotry. Because like, what if there was just like an influx of people for a reason unrelated to who was president at the time, and as a result, it's going to obviously inflate the numbers. I think that might be relevant to take into consideration. If you're not targeting and focusing on people who recently arrived, then the border is effectively open. It is more humane to be removing people who have been here for 2 weeks, than it is to be removing people who have been here for 20 years and have families. Trump rejected this policy and focusing on new arrivals and criminals instead of wants to deport as many people as possible. It's impossible to ignore his rhetoric. He infamously called some Mexican immigrants rapists and focused on presidency around the idea that he would build a wall, get tough with Mexico, deport as many undocumented immigrants as possible. I think he also, and I'm going to have to double check here. Let me see. Let me see. I got a whole fucking document, okay? I'm ready to go with this shit. How is this immigration? Well, obviously, I already talked about DACA, which, by the way, I said ACA earlier. It's actually the APA, the Administrative Procedure Act. That was what I was referring to. On May 7, 2018, the Justice Department announced a policy of zero tolerance of unauthorized crossing at the border with Mexico, coordinated between the Departments of Homeland Security and the Justice Department. Under Trump's policy, federal authorities separate children from their parents, relatives, and other adults who accompanied them in crossing the border illegally. Parents were sent to federal jails, awaiting their hearing, while children were held in shelters under the aegis of the Department of Health and Human Services. So, you cannot necessarily criticize Obama, and I don't even know why we're talking about Obama when he's not running for president, but you can't criticize necessarily Obama about the kids in cages and all that shit when Trump carried out the exact same policy. So it's kind of absurd to say that, yeah. So this sounds like basically what I'm reading so far about this is that Obama prioritized deporting people who were convicted of serious crimes, whereas Trump was indiscriminately just deporting people. Obama used executive action to temporarily give protected status to undocumented people who arrived in the United States as children and curbed deportations from the interior states of the country. His focus, particularly toward the end of his administration, was on quick returns of new arrivals at the border who were perceived to have had fewer, ties in the U.S., though that controversially included some ties to Central American migrants. Okay. Trump sought to end Obama's program shielding undocumented young people from deportation and has reversed the trend of internal deportations, and he sought to remove more people, including those who have been in the country for a long time. So, actually, this makes me even question not like the numbers of people who are deported, but even like why it matters whenever Piers Morgan brings it up, because like he deported 3 million people, the most in American history. Why does that matter though? Like, what if all of them were fucking convicted criminals, or if 90% of them were convicted criminals? Did you want them to be like entering the country? Like, so I think that like more needs to be brought up. If you can't just cite the number and think you got a slam dunk there. You have to like bring up other things that makes it where that number is actually meaningful.
I can't quite follow that, can you?
Well, liberalism doesn't make sense, Piers. We know that. But I'll also say the majority of the American people support mass deportation, including Democrats. We learned about that a couple months ago in a poll. But what I don't understand with Democrats is that they're just clutching their pearls over a mass deportation effort when we have 10 million people that came across our southern border illegally, and that's not including the gotaways. They have no problem with that. People can just invade our country, break our immigration law.
Okay, they say invade. It's just bullshit, obviously. Fear-mongering shit. I don't know why. Oh, actually, I do know why. I'm sorry. I don't know why I was about to say that. I do know why they bring up scary words like infestation, invasion, all these scary words. It's because they want people to be scared of immigrants. And they want them to be in favor of deporting as many immigrants as humanly possible because they don't want people from Mexico coming in here.
No problem. But then if you take those people that came in the last 3.5 years and you said, okay, you broke the law, now you have to go back because you broke the law and you came en masse to our country, then all of a sudden they clutch their pearls in horror.
Once again, Tommy is strawmanning what the Democratic side argues. They aren't saying that they're not like clutching their pearls because we're deporting criminals. That nobody in their right mind would ever think that. And in fact, that was the policy it seemed to be under Obama himself. The issue is that Trump literally had a blanket Muslim ban and was very in favor of deporting people and doing so while suspending and the due process rights of undocumented immigrants, even though that is protected by the 14th Amendment.
Are you kidding me? That's what we need to do because your president, your sleepy president, allowed 10 million plus people in, and it's...
Okay, let's find... wait, how is she even what is she talking about?
Your president, your sleepy president, allowed 10 million plus people in, and it's not sustainable.
How many... immigrants in states under Biden? Factcheck.org? When was this? 2024, so pretty recent. So we can rely on this, I guess. It's gone up significantly under President Biden. Show that in the initial process of millions of encounters, 2.5 million have been released into the United States and 2.8 million have been removed or expelled. So if we combine these two figures, that's what? 5.3 million? Some Republicans, however, have misleadingly suggested that number released into the country since Biden took office is much higher. Oh my God. Here's the 10 million figure. Tom Kahn of Arkansas said on Fox News Sunday that Biden had allowed an invasion to occur at our border. Almost 10 million migrants have crossed into our country. The same day at CNN's State of the Union, Marco Rubio said that conservatively 3.3 million have been released into the country who arrived here illegally. So what's this? What does the actual stats say about it? The statistics can be a bit confusing and a little messy. For one, the number of apprehensions at the border includes people who have tried to cross the border, who have tried to cross more than once. Ah, okay, so that might inflate the numbers. In the fiscal year of 2021, the recidivism rate was 27%, according to most recent figures. That's pretty significant, I would say. It's almost 1 in 3. That's up from just 7% in fiscal 29. Okay. So another issue is with the DHS data is that another issue with that data is that immigration cases can take years to make their way through the court backlogs. The figures on what happens when migrants have come to the border reflect the initial dispositions, as DHS calls them. In many cases, the final decision on whether a migrant will be allowed to stay or will be deported comes later. I'm going to actually save this as a bookmark. Comprehensive figures are available through October, so to keep things as simple as possible, we'll present numbers for February 2021, the month after Biden took office. The DHS data shows 6.5 million encounters at the US-Mexico border in that time frame, a figure that includes both the 5.8 million apprehensions between legal ports of entry, the number typically used for illegal immigration, and a little more than 700,000 migrants who arrived at ports or of entry without authorization to enter the United States. Of that 6.5 million encounters by CBP, 2.5 million people have been released into the U.S. with notices to appear in immigration court or report to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE, in the future, or other classifications such as parole. So under Title 42, nearly 2.5 were immediate expulsions of the removals. Okay. So total DHS I don't even know how to say this. Through October, accounted for 3.7 million, a figure that includes the 2.8 million removals directed by CBP, as well as removals by ICE. CBP operates at the border, at ports of entry between them, while ICE is responsible for interior enforcement. So the total DHS repatriations of 3.7 million would support that. The figure is 57% of the 6.5 million total encounters. The one caveat is that the total I'm gonna have to figure out how to say this. Sorry. Look, I'm a bit retarded, so
We are looking at how to pronounce this word, as well as how to say more interesting but often confusing vocabulary that many get wrong, so make sure to stay tuned to the channel if you enjoy learning. Repatriation, stress.
Repatriation, okay. The one caveat is that the total repatriation could include some migrants who were apprehended crossing the border some time ago and later arrested. Oh, wow. So from February 2021 to October 2023, Title 42 expulsions comprised 37.6%. Interesting. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So the short answer is that it depends. It's a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. So I'm seeing the 6.5 million figure pop up, which is probably what they're talking about, if I'm being the most, like, charitable, I guess. But of that amount, like, not all of them, like, stayed. Okay. Do they have, like, a bottom line, or... So while the raw numbers are much higher under Biden, 5 million encounters compared with 1.4 million under Trump in those timeframes, the percentages for the two administrations were similar, 47% removed from Trump and 51% under Biden. Bureau's estimates are for illegal immigration between ports of entry. Okay. These numbers highlight how difficult it is for even the determined administration in the U.S. to expel everyone who enters illegally. So, basically, that 10 million figure is just an exaggeration. Okay, we went on that whole journey together. That 10 million figure is an exaggeration.
A sleepy president allowed 10 million plus people in, and it's not sustainable. Your own governors and your own mayors know that it's not sustainable. So the open border doesn't work, and the only way to fix an open border...
It's hard to describe it as an open border, though, because like the way that they invoke the word or the term open border is a lot different from how it's understood.
...border is to close it, and then also deport the people that came in under it. That's...
Well, people are being deported, though, is the thing. And it's highlighted here that the proportion of those removed, it's actually higher under Biden, but only by a couple percentage points.
It's just basic logic. I know you guys don't operate on that, but please.
Okay, how does she have the arrogance to, like, say that it's basic logic and you guys don't operate off that? That is the utter arrogance, and while, by the way, propagating just complete bullshit and obvious propaganda. Like, if you want to talk about logic, then engage with the actual, like, facts of the matter instead of just exaggerating, saying it's over 10 million people who were just let in.
Give me your horror and your outrage.
Okay, Brian, save us your horror and outrage. I mean, this whole issue of immigration, I don't think any fair-minded Democrat in America could possibly look at the number of people that have come over the border illegally in the tenure of President Biden and not share everybody else's view that is completely unsustainable and clearly has been a failed policy on the southern border. Do you?
I mean, to be fair, like, the policies from Donald Trump, too, have failed because, like, you can argue that less people were, you know, removed or that came into the country under President Trump, but at the same time, like, a lot of his policy regarding immigration itself, like, that he wanted to do just didn't end up materializing. He got some of the border wall, I guess, funded or built or whatever, but, like, it wasn't all built. And it, more importantly, doesn't necessarily prevent illegal immigrants from crossing the border. And not only that, though, he promised his supporters to phase out of DACA, and that failed in court. So, like, his policy in regards to immigration just was a failure from a conservative standpoint.
Do you think it's been a success or a failure?
Well, all of this might suggest that we need some legislation on the border. And in fact, we had 3 senators, Kirsten Sinema, Chris Murphy, and Republican James Lankford, negotiate a border bill that was not only the most conservative border bill that any Democrat could have signed, but it had no comprehensive immigration reform, which is historically the absolute condition that Democrats require. Instead, it had Ukraine aid that was attached to it, which passed anyway, which means there was nothing that the Republicans gave up. And yet Donald Trump issued his clarion call to Republicans because he thought it was too important to preserve the issue of the border as a campaign issue, and so he wouldn't allow this to be solved. So
we already went over this, but yeah, he wants the border to remain an issue so he can campaign on it.
Tommy and George, spare us the grandstanding about the border when I didn't hear either one of you come out and say that this border bill needed to be passed when Donald Trump was making sure that it didn't get passed because he wanted to make sure the border was as chaotic as humanly possible.
Yes.
Okay, I want to switch.
So it's Donald Trump's
really good points from Brian there.
That the border's chaotic.
Yes.
That's exactly
well,
what
by the way, in
Absolutely.
2019, Donald Trump sat in the Oval Office and said, I can't do this without laws. My distinguished friend who's on this panel says, it's common sense. No, you need laws to do it. Donald Trump couldn't pass the law in 2019. Joe Biden was prepared to do it here, and Donald Trump vetoed it. And by the way, I fact-checked while we were waiting. It's actually Clinton who did the most deportations of any president.
Wait, hold on. I think that was... Didn't we look that up? And that was actually true? That was more than Biden? Hold on. Sorry, I'm rehashing things. Wait, what did we look up? Many... Wait. Thank you, yeah. Yes, I need that one article. Oh, would you look at that? In totality. Wait, I can't believe I overlooked this the first time. I didn't connect the dots there between what this was saying and what Pierre's his claim was. In totality, President Bush deported even more people than Obama, and President Bill Clinton deported more than Bush. So this is analysis conducted by the Migrant Policy Institute. More than 12 million people were deported, either removed or returned from the U.S. during the Clinton administration. More than 10 million were removed or returned during the Bush administration. And then 5 million were removed or returned during the Obama administration. But these numbers don't tell the whole story. And we already went into what the context was in regards to those returns. And how it was prioritized. So, but if you look at totality, it looks like that's the case. Yes. So that's weird. Why would he say that? First off, his number isn't even accurate because it's actually 5 million. But because he said 3 million, Pierce did, and even then, like Bush deported more than Obama, and Clinton deported more than Bush. Interesting. Okay.
Checked while we were waiting. It's actually Clinton who did the most deportations of any.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's Obama.
I just checked it.
It's
no,
Obama.
I
wrong.
just checked it.
I've written.
You're wrong. Okay, there's like, do you have any proof or what?
Problems about it. It's not.
Well, Paul, you wrote your column in the New York Post, therefore it must be true.
I will bet you $1,000.
Why is he dying on this hill? If he said, okay, if he thinks that Obama deported more people than any other president in American history, then that has to mean that the the way they measure deportations wherever he pulled his information from is completely different from like apparently the Migration Policy Institute. It's gotta be completely different, right? And I see that the screen is black. I don't know why. There we go.
Just a charity that Obama deported.
I don't have $1,000. However, I'll bet you $10.
I'll bet you $1.
I'll bet you $1.
Okay. Obama deported more people than Clinton.
So weird, dude.
It's a fact. He also dropped more bombs in a calendar year.
That's not even true. Why is he saying something that's not true? Unless this is wrong? Unless this is incorrect. Or that the measurement that he is using to examine deportations is more like accurate. I don't know why he's saying this, and it's not true.
Yeah, than any other American.
By the way, you know, and all of those.
And by the way, why are we talking about Obama so much when he's not on the ticket?
Pierce, hold on. Now you want to run against anyone against Kamala. You Trumpers are all the same.
I'm not a Trumper.
I want to say this about the deportation thing.
I'm not a Trumper. I just parrot every single conservative talking point ever on Twitter, including that Biden's dead.
Have laws around doing this stuff. If Donald Trump says we're going to use the law right now, the people that are here, despite what this person on our panel said, people who are here under the asylum laws are here lawfully.
They're fraudulently.
They have to be adjudicated when they're here under the asylum.
Fraudulently is just an absurd way of describing our asylum seekers.
Claims 9 years back, people are walking into the
It's actually so insane that it's not even like it borders on just nonsensical like schizophrenia. Like to describe those awaiting trial right now who are undocumented immigrants as though they are here fraudulently is just absurd.
Oh, George, I can say this because you were there later than I was. You did nothing to increase our capacity to throw out people in asylum. That's what the compromise was about.
I was a big advocate to double our immigration judges so that we can double the process.
In that case, on this issue, you'd be better than Trump on immigration. Congratulations.
All right, George Santos is better than Trump. That's a good way to end that particular part.
I'll take the win.
We're running out of time, but I want to go to Tommy quickly just to talk about this issue of Benjamin Netanyahu coming to address a joint session of Congress. This is to boost support for his war, obviously, in Gaza. A lot of people, mainly Democrats, staying away from showing any support for this speech. What do you feel about that? I mean, in a democracy like America, when it's one of America's great allies around the world, should people be able to just stay away?
Yeah? Have you not heard of... Wait, is he implying that it's undemocratic to not come out and show open support for an ally to the United States? That doesn't even make sense. Also, Kamala has shown support for Israel, saying they have a right to defend themselves.
No, they shouldn't act like children and stay away. If we have to sit there and listen to Zelensky address us how many times now and beg for money, then we should be able to all come together and listen to the leader of the only democracy in the Middle East. But I think it's also very telling that Vice President Kamala Harris, who is your presumptive nominee, who wants to prove to the American people that she can handle foreign policy, something she's never really handled before, that she is instead...
I guess that's fair. That she hasn't handled foreign policy that much. But she has kind of, like, during her tenure as VP.
Decided to go to a sorority instead of hearing the leader from, even if she disagrees with the war, that's on her, but to even go and listen and preside over the Senate, which is part of her job, the fact that she is instead deciding to go yuck it up at a sorority is really telling, and it's exactly why they call her...
So funny, by the way, that they're criticizing her foreign policy when Donald Trump didn't divest any business interests whatsoever, and as a consequence signed a weapons deal with Saudi Arabia, and purposely waited until his fucking copyright shit passed, or his trademark shit passed in Turkey before pulling out of Turkey, leaving the Kurds like fucked. Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to go down the foreign policy route, we can definitely do that.
Brat Kamala and think it's so great? Well, it's an unserious person who's unserious about proving herself to the American people. She was not elected to be your nominee. She was anointed your nominee by all counts. And now she doesn't even want to show up to do the job she has right now because she wants to go speak to a sorority? Give me a break. What a...
Well, she did... Wait, she and as well as Biden are meeting with Netanyahu. I mean, this information was, like, publicly known at the time that this was broadcasted 2 days ago. I'm pretty sure it was like more than 2 days ago that this was known. But...
A joke.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, do you feel comfortable about Democratic lawmakers snubbing Israel's prime minister like this? Whatever the...
This is absurd. Like, the fact that Democrats are snubbing Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, that's absurd.
View of the war?
Like, they're mad because they weren't in attendance. First off, that's not even true, because there were plenty of Democrats in attendance for Benjamin Netanyahu's visit. They're bitching that Kamala was somewhere else. It's such a weak argument.
I think that as far as Benjamin Netanyahu is concerned, I think that he is focused on his own self-serving interests. I think that the Democratic Party recognizes that. That is why he's become such a lightning rod, because this whole thing is about prolonging the war to help himself.
Okay, we're going to wrap now. So, final word to you guys sitting here. Thank you. It's been great.
It's my
by the way.
Thank you.
pleasure.
Really enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed the debate. Where's this going to wash up, do you think, in November?
Look, I'll say this. I believe a Donald Trump victory is inevitable because the American people are watching in real time what's been taking place.
I think it's pretty ridiculous to say anything is inevitable at this point. I think that right now it's kind of like a coin flip between who's going to win the presidency. To say it's inevitable for one side versus the other, whether it's Kamala or Trump, is just a ridiculous statement.
Democracy that Trump threatens so much is almost a footnote compared to what Democrats are doing in the maneuvers. Donald Trump is not running against a candidate. He's running against an entire system, a system that is willing to do whatever it takes.
You know that he is part of that same system, right? He's as much in the swamp as the entire Democratic establishment.
To take him out. They are cheating, stealing, and lying.
Wait, he's just making these claims. This is bullshit. This is so stupid, dude. Like, so fucking retarded. He just throws out buzzwords without shame. Like, they're cheating. Okay, what evidence was there that they're cheating? What are you talking about? they're what else did he say? That they're committing fraud?
Whatever it takes to take him out. They are cheating, stealing, and
stealing what? What is he talking about?
Lying all across, making sure that they can absolutely keep hold to power. Just look at what they did. Not a single Democrat vote from the primary was taken into account. They did not allow an open process. And the one telling thing is Obama not endorsing Kamala.
Wait, this is ridiculous because they like an open. There's nobody else that's going to run for president right now. Like an open convention is just not in the cards. Everybody endorsed Kamala and consolidated around her. So how it like, do you expect those same people to run against her? And also, there's not many viable candidates outside of Kamala. Like Gretchen or Whitmer, I think expressed the fact that she didn't want to run. Gavin Newsom isn't going to run. You know, you have these other members who are, everybody else is just like a VP candidate. So to argue that it's undemocratic because they didn't allow an open convention, it's kind of dumb because like they're first off legally not obligated to have an open convention if they don't want to, because everybody can just throw their support around one candidate, and also everybody can just try to play up their, you know, like qualifications to be a VP to Kamala. Nobody's going to challenge Kamala.
And asking for,
but that's not like undemocratic. Everybody is making that decision collectively for the whole of the party.
Open primary, open convention signals that I think he's still sane. And to compare that to Hillary Clinton and whatnot.
And also, how are we not levying the same criticism to the Republicans who all anointed Trump as their candidate? Like, come on, it's ridiculous. Nobody challenged Trump. Like, okay, you have Nikki Haley. She dropped out like ages ago. Like, they didn't have an open convention, but he's not gonna bitch about that.
Look, Hillary Clinton is a has-been that has absolute no say. So my take is Trump wins this inevitably.
Okay, Anthony, two questions. One, is it a nailed on certainty now that Kamala Harris will be the nominee, or could there still be a surprise?
It's very hard for there to be a surprise. 300 delegates have to send a letter to put someone into nomination. There's no one to take the nomination. There's no one who wants the job behind it. It's going to be her.
And will she be officially confirmed at the convention?
No, it's going to happen sooner. It's going to happen sometime next week. They're going to do a virtual roll call to accommodate some shenanigans going on in Ohio.
And then pretty much this whole race, what sort of ticks along. The Democrats have their convention. It'll be a celebration of Kamala, a rail behind her. Yes. And then after Labor Day, then we get into the serious stuff running up to the election. Is that really what's going to happen?
Traditionally, the polls don't mean much until after, you're right, until after the conventions, after Labor Day. You see a lot of bumps now. A guy got, one candidate got shot, you had a convention, you had changes. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to the polls, but you're probably right, after Labor Day.
And who do you actually believe is going to win?
I believe in 2016, the focus was on Hillary Clinton and she lost. I believe in 2020, the focus was on Donald Trump and he lost. I think it's going to go back to now being on Donald Trump again, a reminder of what that was like, and I think Kamala wins.
And do you think if it had been Biden against Trump, that Trump would have beaten Biden?
Yes.
So you think it's been a really transformative switch?
This has been a really good week for us, yes. After 25 days of just horrible since the debate.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I think he was really well spoken. He handled himself well. He made up good points. He had really, quick rebuttals and like one-liners. I think that was pretty good. Same with that other dude, Brian. He was pretty good too. But this didn't necessarily showcase as much of the bias that Piers actually has. Although it did showcase it on occasion, yeah. But I would say my overall thoughts, I think that right now declaring a winner for sure on either side, it's kind of tough to do that. It's so unpredictable, and I think it's going to come down to how complacent the Democratic voter base is with all the excitement behind Kamala, because right now you have everybody who is throwing their weight behind her through endorsements and PAC money and donations, and it might have that effect that happened in 2016 where people were just complacent and assumed that she would win and didn't bother showing up to the polls. So I think that has a real backfire effect for Democrats. So they need to instill this sense of urgency to go out and vote and encourage your friends to vote and don't take anything for granted. So I think that's the message they need to send the Democrats this election cycle too. If I'm a Republican, I think for Republicans, they need to... It's hard because, J.D. Vance has done a lot of damage to the Republican ticket, and so they kind of have to, treat him like, you know, an autistic, retarded, like, child, and just, like, put him in the corner and just keep him, like, tied up, basically, in, like, a room. And so they need to get the limelight out of, like, away from JD Vance, basically. And they need to focus more on attacking Kamala's policies and making her seem like she is a lot more progressive than she actually is today. She is progressive to an extent, but I think that she's mellowed out a lot since before 2020. So if they can make it seem as though she has the same prescriptions as like Biden or something to that effect, and tie her you know, success or lack thereof to you know, the same things that are misaligned with conservative values, and I think that could be helpful. But for conservatives, they just got to keep JD Vance out of the limelight, and they need to you know, they need to focus on, you know, the same things, I guess, like Tulsi Gabbard focused on when she bodied her in the debates in 2019. If they can focus on that, focus on policy, be less unhinged about the sexist stuff and the racist stuff, I think that they could definitely get, you know, they can win in 2024. So they need to tone down a little bit on the misogyny and the racism. They can tone down on that, tie JD Vance up, put him in a room until, you know, January 2025. They should have a chance to win for sure. So yeah, I would say that's my my general thoughts for now. But stuff is getting interesting for sure. This election cycle, and we'll see what happens. But man, it's crazy. Okay, well, I think that's about it for today. Pretty solid stream. I might, I think I'm gonna start streaming a little bit more often. I might go back to a weekly schedule, but we'll see how that plays out. Same time as always, like on Saturdays, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But until then, you know, it's gonna be a whole fucking week of news and shit to talk about, and there's always so much to talk about anyway. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun, and that's it for today. So thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.